Okay, we're back. Loddy and Mac on the SAC, March 12th, 2023. 5 days before the most glorious day of all. But a pretty good one anyway. NCAA Tournament Selection Show. We got some conference championships today. Marquette last night, they win it. They kill them?
Easily.
Yeah. Big East is always the night before, right? And who's the last one? Is it ACC or Big Ten?
Big Ten's always last.
Yeah, ACC was last night.
And in the
Dukey's
Big Ten, we got Penn State, Purdue.
Correct.
Is that right? All right. Angry Jay in the house. The Don Father. Of course, Loddy. Loddy owns the studio. Sponsored today by Skygazer Brewing, L&R Tax Associates, Jamie Leggett, make you some money, and none other than Chiz Clothing. Thanks to our sponsors. In the studio today, different format. We're going interview format. We got one of the best. Angry Jay and I know from experience, and the commish is sadly not here for this, but a 1976 graduate of Nonawag High School, went on to the University of Connecticut, Husky alum, teacher at the Gilbert School before he moves to Omogo Regional, where he still teaches today as a retired teacher. He's got a great gig. Varsity baseball coach, Thomaston, 83 to 92, Terryville 92 to 95, Omogo 2007 to present, been around. Varsity basketball, Nonawag, 1983 to 1988. I think the 1988 Bears put him into retirement there. They couldn't guard number 10. Moves on to
15
Terryville.
feet off you, I'm sure.
Draymond. 1992 to 1995. Womogo, 97 to present. I think he served as a JV or assistant coach for a second there. Head coach from 97? Head coach from 97?
Yep.
Okay. Manager of the NECBL, Torrington Twisters, 1997-2008. Manchester Silkworms, 2009-2010. Torrington Titans, and the FCBL Futures. Deputy Commissioner presently of the NECBL. Manager and founder of one of the most famous amateur baseball outfits in the country, the Bethlehem Plowboys. Manager and founder of the Modern Motors team from the Great Twymet League in Waterbury. Member of the Tri-State Hall of Fame 2009. His varsity programs have appeared in 3 state finals. Thomaston Baseball in 85. Angry Jay at second. Terryville Baseball 92. Womogo Basketball 2006. And, well, we're missing a basketball. 2020?
Recently, yeah.
No, 19?
18.
Nice divisions. Nutmeg State Games head baseball coach of the West team. 41-year member of the Western Connecticut Soccer Officials Board. Current member of the Connecticut CIAC Boys Basketball Committee, current meeting as of a few weeks ago. Is that right? And I think that's a pretty good intro right there. So let's give
It's a decent
his
We got
name.
her on a show.
See you guys next week.
Now, welcome the great Coach Gregg Hunt.
Coach, great to have you. Thanks for coming in.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Coach, can you speak on the days of varsity basketball programs, how they were when you first started to how they seem to be run today?
Oh, just the game has changed so much since the early 80s. I mean, the three-point shot is out now in. There's no more centers. People don't want to play in the post. When the three-point shot came in, I thought it was one of the best things for the game. Now I'm not so sure. When I went to Terryville, they did an article in the Hartford Courant about the ABA was back in Terryville, and we got a team taking 12 to 15 threes every night. And now that's a light night for most teams. The game's gone to just jacking threes and picking and layups. I don't know if that's good for the game. The shooting is not as good as it used to be. There's a lot of selfish play. Next year we're going to put in a shot clock because I guess somebody thinks we don't take enough bad shots already, so we can take more. And that's changed. You don't go to the foul line as much. I know for my teams, we used to live at the foul line. We would go through games all the time where we would get outscored from the floor but win it from the line. I think it's better now that they don't call as many fouls. Everything's advantage, disadvantage. And that's the way it should be because nobody wants to go to a basketball game and see the best players sitting on the bench. So I think those are the biggest differences, but the game evolves all the time.
Coach, are you not in favor of the shot clock?
Oh, I am not in favor of the shot clock. The reasons that we come up with...
You know you're in the minority there, right?
I could be in the minority.
I know,
That's fine. People say, well, we haven't held the ball in 25 years, but you would think we did it last night. You know, the way people come up to it, well, you guys hold the ball all the time. We don't hold the ball. I mean, and does anybody that's ever tried to hold the ball realize how hard it is? People will say, well, it's not fun to watch when you, when you guys go into a stall. I said, we are not in the entertainment business. We're in the winning business. You want to be entertained. The Globetrotters are still in business, and it's the same show that it's been for 40 years, and I guess it's entertainment, but we're not in the entertainment business.
You know what's funny about that is the last time I saw somebody just be really, I wouldn't say hold the ball, but really deliberate and try to do something to get under the skin of the other team is when the St. Paul Mighty Falcons did it to Woolkit. And a bunch of Woolkit kids that I just know through baseball, I've coached some of them, came over at halftime, and there's like 10 kids, and 9 of them are pissed. They wanted to see up and down threes. Maybe somebody can touch the rim on a layup.
Yeah, we were trying to win a game.
I know. And one kid, who is the son of one of our friends, Thomas and Alex Scanziano, his son goes, Coach, that was awesome. Because you don't see it every night, and it's hard. You know, it's hard, especially when people are coming after you. Anyway, Angry?
Yeah, so when I was at Litchfield, we used to run delay too, and I stole it from Coach. Remember the old pause? We broke it out a few times, and we really wouldn't shoot the ball unless it was a layup. And we pretty much just ran it in the fourth quarter. But speaking of that, the terrible kids, where you ran it, the fans hated me because we wouldn't shoot. Like, we had 3 kids who could hold the ball. Tim Deacon, if you guys remember, Tony Giordano, Jake Cielo. We wouldn't they would handle. We'd have 2 guys just stand there, and Coach had taught it to me, like, big guys just screen. If they don't pay attention, you just have them cut to the basket. So we used to run it against them because we didn't match up with them talent-wise. But it was awesome. So my question to you is, Coach, 35-second shot clock, will anything change for the way you teach next year, like your offense?
We're going to make some adjustments more for personnel than the shot clock. We're going to do some timing of our videos and just take a look and see how long our average possessions really are. The average high school possession now is 12 seconds.
Yeah.
So it's really not necessary. But we will put something in for a quick hitter. I have a pretty good idea what we're going to do based on our personnel that we'll have for next year.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of holding the ball to prove that we can hold the ball. If we can win a game, we want to use it. I tell my kids all the time, the 3 words any coach in the Berkshire League wants to hear coming off our bench are 8-pass drill. And it changes the way they play because they have to play with 5 and 6 minutes to go. They have to play like there's 2 or 3 minutes to go because they know we're just going to put the thing away. Now, you still have to make free throws, okay? And you guys probably don't remember this, but there used to be a school called St. Thomas Seminary. And they used to hold the ball all the time. And they would beat people 24-23 all the time. They had 18-2 teams. And it was amazing because the coach of that team was Bob Ruderman.
No way.
If you guys knew who Bob Ruderman was,
we know him.
Bob scores 100 points. Bob wants to score 100 points every night. But Bob was not getting the basketball players he was getting later in his career. So he put the guys into his delay offense, and that's what they did. And they were very successful.
Coach, I think to your point, you said most teams shoot it in about 12 seconds. I don't think that's going to be a big issue. I think where it changes the most is maybe what your special teams. Now you got a sideline out of bounds play or a baseline out of bounds play, and there's only 4 or 5 seconds on the shot clock. So instead of, hey, we just got to get the ball in, now we got to get the ball in to score. So I think some of the coaches will have some fun with it and come up with more game situation stuff at practice for the kids, and the kids are going to have to absorb, I think, a lot more of that information instead of just the up and down freestyle and play. Do you agree with that?
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I talked to John Pannone about it, who's been a big proponent for the shot clock, and I said I disagree, but we have good discussions about it. And that's exactly what he went to. Is the special situations are going to become so much more important. John's got the experience where he should be able to pass that on to his kids and gain another advantage.
Getting ahead of ourselves, we're going to touch on all this stuff. We're going to back it way up. Coach, Nonawag High School, what sports did you participate in there?
I wrestled and I played baseball.
Did you have a singlet?
Yes, we wore a singlet. Yep.
Do you still have it?
No, I don't.
Okay.
And we used to wear tights underneath, which they don't do
Have you
anymore
seen
either.
Vision Quest?
Of course he has. How about at the University of
Great
Connecticut?
movie.
I wrestled at Connecticut.
Why did I think you were involved in boxing?
They had a boxing club, and
Yeah.
I would go down. There was a guy on my floor that did it, and I would go down one night a week, and we'd put boxing gloves on and hammer away on each other.
So they still have a club. It's not varsity sport, but I was able to watch some Yukon boxers yesterday, and
They really have a boxing club still?
yeah, at the Bristol Sports Armory yesterday, Yukon hosted the regional.
I didn't
And
know
the
that.
winners.
How about that?
And by the way, they fought Friday and Saturday. So if you win Friday, your Saturday bout is for the championship, where you move on to the regional. West Point, who by the way is a team, like they're rooting for each other. And when you watch these kids, you're thinking each one of them has a congressional letter to get in there. I mean, these are all special kids, right? You've coached one,
Yep.
one, right?
What's that?
West Point cadet.
Well, I had my captain from Terryville, Greg Fortier,
Yeah, Greg
went
Fortier.
there. He's he got out just before he could have become a general if he stayed in one more time, but he got
Jeez.
out.
I remember him.
How about the Berkshire League between Steve Reich and Fortier? We got officers here.
Mike Cedarholm was a best pilot in the Marine Corps, and he's going to be a general. So he's
Get outta here.
he's still in, and he was a member of the Blue Angels and everything, and
Where do you play, Gilbert?
he played at Northwest.
Northwest.
He played
Northwestern.
basketball and baseball, and he
Okay.
coached my JVs our freshmen, I guess.
He coached
up
with
at-
you?
up at Terryville? Yeah.
We're going to get to the coaching tree in a minute. There, you must have had so many. How about so Nonawag to Yukon, and then how quickly out of college did you land a job at Gilbert?
I had the job at Gilbert before I graduated. I knew I was going to be teaching there the following year, and I was so lucky to get into Gilbert and work under two fantastic coaches, Mike Gamari, who taught me how to organize practices and all that stuff, and the importance of fundamentals, and then Mo Morhart, which is the best baseball coach that's ever lived. I think the guy's unbelievable, and I just. When the whole thing went full circle and Mo ended up as being my assistant on the Silkworms, they say, well, what's it like coaching with Mo? I would tell people, I don't coach with Mo. I go to a 2-month baseball clinic. He's phenomenal.
That's a great way to put it.
Was that a little different? That little weird feeling, all of a sudden having him be on your staff?
No, because it made my job so much easier. Now, he would fill that part. He was the hitting instructor. That was his thing. I didn't touch what he did. He just took care of the hitters, and I could do other things. And like I said, I learned stuff from him every single day, even after we had been working together for 25 years.
So then, how long after you were mentored by Mike Gamari, Mo Morhart, did you get a varsity job?
3 years. 3 years.
And that was at Thomaston?
That was at Thomaston.
Okay. And in the early 80s, so what was that like? Were you ready for that? Like, were you
Yeah.
chomping at the bit?
83, I was excited. I didn't know how long I was going to be in education. I wanted to take a crack at this, and the Thomaston kids were great. The Thomaston kids just worked their tails off all the time. They wanted to learn, and we had a young team. We only had one senior, Richie Bodwin, as my first year there, and we were like 10-9 or something like that. We lost to Central Catholic, and then the next year we
Central Catholic.
we tied with Chappaqua for the league championship, and the following year we won the league championship outright.
Coach.
We got beat in a playoff game in '84.
Coach, we always talk about, excuse me, Angry Jay, we always talk about the 80s was kind of our heyday when we grew up, and obviously you got started in coaching in the 80s. If you can just briefly describe the difference, I know it's 40 years, but the difference between kids and athletes in the 80s versus maybe what you see today, just on your teams.
Well, back then everybody just played baseball. I mean, that was where your background came in, youth sports.
Okay.
And this was the time when soccer was just starting to come in,
Sure.
and they do some basketball in the winter, but everybody played baseball. And they came out, and that's all they wanted to do. I mean, in the summer, we just played baseball all day. I just went up to the field. We called it a clinic, but we just played baseball.
It was just pick-up baseball,
9 to
right?
3. Well, we played in the morning. We did some instruction, and in the afternoon we just we played games all afternoon.
Mac, do you remember going to his
And you
baseball
guys were
camp?
there, right?
Yeah.
A baseball camp started at 8:30, and they picked us up at like
3.
5 or something.
Yeah.
There was like a 20-minute lunch period where if you brought a sandwich, you could eat it in the corner.
And you wouldn't have wanted to
For
be
like
anywhere else,
$25
right?
for the week.
Yeah.
Or something stupid like that. Like,
So, Coach, your first year at Thomason was. So I was in 8th grade. My brother was a sophomore.
Right, your brother was sophomore.
I remember he got named captain as a sophomore. It was
What?
amazing.
Oh, he was a leader.
He
And
was.
that's what-
He was like. I was like. I couldn't believe. I'm like, you're so full of shit. When he came back, he was like, I'm captain. I'm like, get out of here.
Yeah, but he always did the right thing. He he worked hard. He wanted to win. He was very coachable. He had all the qualities we were looking for in a captain.
you catch any flack when you did that?
No, I don't recall that. And we only have.
Would you
I
have
don't know
cared?
what you guys do. I only have one captain. If we have a captain, it's not this thing of we're going to have 5 captains.
And you select
for every
it.
season.
And you select
Oh, I
the captain,
select it.
yeah.
You got to work with me. There's one field marshal, and we'll take one general. Okay, but that's it. We're not going to make this. Everybody feels good. We'll have Cohen try, and we had one team came in for basketball at Terryville one time. They had 5 captains. So we introduced them as quint captains when they came.
So yeah, that's changed.
You still do that today?
One captain.
I love it.
One captain. The only time I've had 2 is when I took over the Nottawag job. They had named captains
before
from the
you
year
got there?
and I said, okay, we'll honor it. One of the captains quit. Good kid, wasn't a bad kid, but he came back years later and said, that was a mistake. And then when I went to Wamogo for baseball, they had not named co-captains, and I said, fine, I'll honor it. And they were both good.
Coach, what if you got a job at a different school just because you've always looked for another challenge, and a lot of people got to wonder, why haven't you taken a crack at a bigger school, and what if you got a job at one of these schools where, and there's a lot of them, they make you apply or write a letter, or possibly the school even gets involved in quote unquote helping you name the captain? Like how would you navigate that?
We're not going to do it. We're not going to do it. It's a non-negotiable. And I know with these places, you have to apply to be captain. No, we know the qualities we're looking for in basketball. At Wamogo, we went a long time without having a captain because the standard is high. We've had great captains, Lance Weiser, Ben Max, Nick Nemergut, the captain I had this year, Carter Nordland, was phenomenal. I've had great captains, and I'm not going to lower my standards. If you don't meet the standard, we don't have a captain.
It shouldn't be that important anyway. What do you do for the referee nonsense before the game?
Well, there's always somebody that steps up that's your best player. And even this year, I didn't name the kid before the season. He had to prove that he could do it. It took about 5 games, and he got it. The year before, Charlie Coffey got it. And he went through a chunk of the season before we made him captain. Now, when I had Garrett Sadazan, who was a great captain, he got the captainship as a sophomore, and he had it for 3 years. But he was a leader. He changed our culture.
Now, you don't understand this because you never even considered this world, but a lot of coaches have to go through drama when it comes to picking captains, and then you don't want to hurt one's feeling and not the other, or pick this one over that one. It becomes like you're drawing lines in the sand between teammates. That's like drama at a lot of places, and I like to hear that. No, that's not the way we do it.
I'm glad the administration allows it.
Well, I don't see why they would want to get involved if they, if they don't like the way the program's being run. I mean, I'll listen to them, but you've got to have a reason. You've got to lay it out. Not that, if you don't name a captain, my phone's going to ring. That's not a good response.
I'm just saying, there's a lot of schools in Connecticut where it's not like that, where the administration does get involved, and as a head coach, you can offer some names, and then it goes to a board. They kind of look, how's the kid doing in class and how he's doing in the hallway. I always just thought, we're with these kids 3 or 4 hours a day. I think we kind of know the character of the kid, right? Where it shouldn't have to be going to the main office for approval or whatever the case may be. So I love what you do, and I'm glad your administration supports that.
Well, we tell our kids it's championship behavior if you're on the team. You're going to be You're different than anybody else. You're going to get your hair cut. You're going to dress up. You're going to act properly. We go on the road. We're all dressed up. We have teams come into our gym. They're dressed like street gangs. We're not doing that. You're different. Why do we have to do this? Because you're a Womogo basketball player, and very few guys are going to get to wear the privilege of wearing that uniform.
If I had a year of eligibility left, I'd come play for you.
Would you dress up?
No, I'd
So,
whatever.
Coach,
I'd like the tie.
The coach, the kids, shirt and tie still.
Shirt and ties. Coaches with jackets that do not come off. Tie doesn't come off. The jackets never come off.
I got to go back to baseball because we had Mr. Morehart on here a few months ago, and he had mentioned baseball game. We played with him. I was actually an eighth. No, I was a freshman. Right? You remember we beat Gilbert in extra innings? It was back then. It was 9 innings because it was afterwards, and Tom Haggerty pitched through 200, and Mr. Morehart said 235 pitches. Do you remember this?
Yes.
Yeah. So today's pitch count, it works like, how many pitches do you get?
110. You got to take them out.
Is that what it is?
Yep.
110?
The geishas are coming in now. Hold on.
So if a guy throws 235 pitches nowadays, is there?
They
what
can't.
What are the ramifications?
Can't.
You just can't. They're gonna make you forfeit. You can't do it. I mean, I agree with the concept of the pitch count. Everybody's not the same. Some kids can throw a lot more pitches than others. We found out there's been a lot of arm injuries that probably could have been avoided if we didn't throw them quite so much. But now the other thing too is kids don't throw enough. I think that's always been the big issue. They don't throw enough. They only throw when there's adults around. Starting pitching is a thing of the past now. Everybody just wants to light up the radar gun. They don't want to pitch. So it's difficult, but it does change the way the game's played. We started pitchers and catchers today. We brought up that last year we were playing at Dunkin' Donuts Park, and we walked off Litchfield, our arch rival, in the game in extra innings. But the biggest at-bat of the game was a freshman batting ninth that had a 10 or 12 pitch at-bat and pushed my kid to the pitch limit. And then we had to go with, bringing in freshmen to close the game out for us. It does change the way the game's played.
Coach, when you say that injuries could be avoided and this and that, like at the end of the day, pitching or throwing a baseball is an unnatural motion anyway. There's going to be injuries. There's going to be arm injuries, period. You could teach a kid the best fundamentals, but the possibility of arm injury exists. And I don't like the rules. I didn't like the innings rule, which was, I don't know if you guys know this, it was 30 outs in 72 hours.
Yeah, 3 days, 3 calendar days.
Yeah, and then they went to pitches. But if you have some people with common sense out there, they actually asked Scott Workoven once when these rules came into play, would he have a problem pitching a kid every game in a state tournament? And he said no, because I happen to have one kid who could do it. So if you know who you have and who you could push a little bit, and you could tell when a kid's done, then he should come out. Or before that, if he's just not performing. But when you think about some of your guys and take big Mike Odenwalder, I remember him in the state tournament. And by the way, one of the pitches he threw was underhand. That shouldn't count in the semi against East Catholic. You remember this?
Oh, we've talked about that one several times.
Yeah. So Big Mike is not like one of your two freshmen from last year that were your better pitchers, right? You'd let him go longer. So why do they have the same rule?
Well, that's what we do. We just make rules for everybody, whether there's the right rule or not. But they talk about fairness. Well, fairness is subjective. It's like equity. Is that
federation? Who
the federation says you have to have pitching. They don't tell you what it is, but that you have to have pitching rules. And even in the NECBL now, we've gone to we use what they call pitch count. Okay, so we have the same type of rules in the NECBL. So now, when I coached in the NECBL, we had 24-man rosters, I think, the first year I was in. Now teams are carrying 20 pitchers. And they're going out. You're sending a kid across the country for the summer, and he's going to come home throwing 12 innings. So it's a different game.
Coach, I'm going to pivot back to basketball, if we don't mind. I know there was a shortage of referees in Connecticut this year, and they had a little more leverage, I think, than in the past. And you touched on how they might have reffed a little differently. Did you see a lot of difference in the way they ref a year or two ago to this year? Because I saw a couple games, girls' games, mind you, when there was a little Scott Foster-ish, where the ref wanted to be the center of the attention and making themselves instead of the kids be the focus. Did you notice any difference in the way your refs officiated this year?
No, I think that refereeing has evolved. It changed slowly, but it got away from, they don't call the touch fouls anymore. We're not taking 30 foul shots. We used to do that on a nightly basis, and now if you take 15 foul shots, that's a busy night for you. The referees, we always know what we're going to get. Before we start the game, we tell the kids who we have for referees, and this is what they're going to call, and this is what they're not going to call, and we adjust our game to the referees. So I have a lot of respect for those guys because we can't play without them. And no referee goes out there and says, I think I'm going to go out and do a rotten job tonight, so people will yell at me and throw stuff out of the stands. And
the St. Paul AD, you would love this. He introduces the refs before he turns it over to the PA person, and he tells everyone if they have a problem with the officiating, he'll be sitting right over there. Just come and tell him all the problems, and he'll discuss it with you. There was one other one, the late Jack Phelan at Farmington. He did the same thing at a tournament game I was at probably 5 years ago before COVID. But he did it at 6'5" in a booming voice, and then he went and he said, "You're not going to say anything to these officials, and you're going to root for whichever team you want, but you're not going to say anything against them." And he handed the microphone over, and he went over and stood in front of the student body and crossed his arms like he was like a bodyguard or something like that. I thought that was a real class thing that most schools should consider doing instead of reading some statement that everyone tunes out to, like. How do we have like the
fair play?
Yeah, all that kind of stuff, or the League One. Nobody abides by it anyway. You want to tell people to shut up before the game? Do that. I think that's effective.
Coach, speaking of officiating, you've been officiating soccer for 40 years now?
40-something years, yeah.
Yeah. How was, going back to kind of like Loddy's point earlier, how officiating a game now compared to back then? Is there a difference controlling a varsity game?
It's easier now than it used to be because the skill level in soccer is so much better. Boys and girls are officiated the exact same way. When I started, it was like you would call it differently for, you would call it differently for girls and boys. Now we don't. The problem's usually not at the varsity level. It's at the lower levels because the coaches don't know as much. The refs are inexperienced. They're JV refs for a reason. I don't know why there's a shortage of referees. Every time I go to a game, there's 500 sitting in the stands, and they all know more than the guys that are out there. Soccer, there aren't a lot of problems.
What made you get into soccer, though?
I wasn't doing anything in the fall, and I almost coached football. Joe Monroe offered me that when Joe Monroe was the football coach at Gilbert. He said, "I need somebody in the building. I want you to coach my receivers, and it would help before." The gap when he could get there between the end of school and when he got there, and the other coaches could get there, so I could be their strength and conditioning and receivers coach. So, and then Joe left to go to Wolcott, and he had a Hall of Fame career.
Yeah, he was there for quite a while at Wolcott.
That would have been neat for you. No,
a lot of work. I know that it would have been very unique for me. It would have been fun to do. Joe's a great guy.
I'm sure you would have put the work in.
We're going to work. Yep.
Soccer again. You do a state final?
Yep.
How many?
I don't know. 3, 4, 5, something like that. Been alternate
all boys,
official,
girls. What do you got?
Did one girls, and then boys. Most of the boys haven't done one in a while because I go play baseball on the weekend of the finals. I go to Florida to play baseball for a week. Okay. So,
Coach, I got a question for you. I know we're jumping around a little bit, but one of the things we discussed here the last month, especially with spring training, 15-second shot clock in the major leagues with nobody on base, and then a 20-second pitch clock with a guy on base. Your thoughts about that, and will it ever trickle down to the lower levels?
I don't know. If you want guys to make plays behind you, work fast, throw strikes. That's what we always said. Work fast, throw strikes, guys will make plays behind you. If you want to have a pitch that you throw have any impact on the next pitch in the hitter's mind, you've got to throw the pitch within 12 seconds. I don't know what these guys are out on the mound thinking about, but when I was a kid, a long baseball game was 2 hours. Now the Yankees play the Red Sox, and we're talking 4.5 hours. I'm all for it. Get the batter in the batter's box. What are you thinking about? Don't tell me I have to get out and clear my head and take the batting gloves off. How about if we outlaw batting gloves so we don't have to do that? We'll play real baseball.
Coach, are you saying you're not in favor of the shot clock in boys and girls high school basketball, but you're in favor of the pitch clock in Major League Baseball?
Absolutely.
Whoa.
Well, how does the shot clock improve the game of basketball? All it does is it makes the schools with more talent be tougher for our schools with less talent to beat, and it levels the playing field. When we spread the floor, when we do things like that, we take them out of their rhythm. They would just beat us on talent. And we know that with the schools we're at, we don't always have the best talent. We've been on a good run in basketball. We don't have the best players, but we have the best teams.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys mentioned, we had talked about the rule changes, and I'll ask Coach this. With the I'm okay with like the pitch clock too, speeding the thing up, but I was thinking about this more. This is for everybody. I'm not sure I really like the 8th and 9th inning being so fat. Like with a 20-second pitch. Like, are you going to end a game or at a huge at bat because the guy's not set by 1 or 2 seconds? Like, what? I mean, what do you think about that, Coach? One of your hitters gets called out for not. He's got 1 foot in the box and he's looking at the third base sign or something. Like the 8th and 9th inning of a American League Championship Series and Yankees Red Sox, and somebody's
Manny or Poppy.
Manny gets called out for not being set in the batter's box, or
Nomar.
What sign are they giving David Ortiz and Manny Ramirez? Hit the ball out of the park. I mean, giving it a bunch.
Yeah, but like you said, they're batting gloves and they're spitting in their hand and they're tapping the plate and they're grabbing their cup. Just get in there and hit. Nomar? The hell was Nomar doing? By the way,
not one of my favorite guys.
Again, Nomar should probably. What if he got a plan because he has a disorder where he has to do the stuff with his batting
contract.
Are we going to
fidget contract?
Oh, we're not going to go there. We're not going there. Coach, what do you like coaching better in high school? Basketball or baseball?
I just coach them differently. So I've always been a baseball guy. I love it, but I can teach the fundamentals so much better and demonstrate so much better in baseball than I can in basketball. Basketball, I want to develop players in baseball, and we will win games because we develop players. Basketball, we want to win. There's more strategy I can control by our style of play and what we're doing on offense, what we're doing on defense, and all that stuff. They're just totally different games, and I know my approach is different.
So we didn't ask you that. We have a segment on the show called "Who'd You Rather." So you get one game left in the Hall of Fame career. It could be hoops. It could be baseball. You could pick the opponent and the meaning of the game: state championship, regular game, whatever. What are you picking?
Oh, I don't know if you're going to let me pick the whole thing. I'm going to play Chippewa, I think, for the state championship.
In baseball?
In baseball, yep.
Okay, so if you could have one of your Thomaston are we talking Thomaston?
We'll talk Thomaston.
All right, if you could have one of your Thomaston players pitch that state championship game, who is it?
Jimmy Russo.
Let's go.
Jimmy Russo finished every game he started his senior year.
Come on.
Jimmy Russo pitched a complete game against Terryville on a Friday. We had to make up a game on Saturday against Chippewa, and he came in and threw the last 3 innings the next day. Nobody raised an eyebrow.
That's why I was asking about pitch counts earlier, because I remember some of that stuff. Yeah.
Well, remember, too, Canton twice. First with Donovan Valley, back-to-back days, complete games.
Yep.
And then with Ricky LaFleur, same thing. And I don't think they complain. I don't know if they had arm injuries. I don't think so, but I don't know. Donovan Valley pitched for us in Twymet. Didn't complain about his arm.
All right, so I got to give you credit there. You did pick one. So I'm going to let you pick a basketball scenario, too. Last game you ever coach, it's going to be for the Warriors, right? Are you guys still the Warriors? Can you be a Warrior?
We are. That was an issue that came up.
Sure, the school board brought something up.
We were forced to remove all the Native American imagery.
But you could still be Warriors.
But we could still be the Warriors.
I don't hate that.
But the kids wanted, we have done nothing disrespectful to the American Indian or whatever a warrior is. I would think it could be a World War II infantryman, if you ask me. But the kids said can we get jackets this year? The baseball team always gets, we have the best swag around. But I said, yeah, what do you want? And they showed me what Chippewa has with the S, and I said, yeah, that's like the Yankees. It means something. What are we going to put on our uniform? We can't use the Indian anymore. The Indian was fantastic that we had before. Can't use that. We have this W that the kids hate.
The Washington Senator one?
They won't let us use the one. They
love
grandfathered that one in. We have the world's best uniforms. We have 1971 Washington Senator uniforms in red pinstripes with warriors across the chest. Oh, they look fantastic. But now we wear a different W, and the kids don't like it. And I told the superintendent this morning, we don't have an identity because we don't have a mascot.
A true mascot.
Yep. So I don't know what we're going to put on. I get the kids jackets if they want them. Certainly can do that. But this whole thing of, taking down stuff that's not disrespectful is just crazy. And it's not the Native Americans that are complaining about it. It's other people.
So you got Wamogo at Mohegan against who? What's your ideal
Well,
matchup
let's
there?
get Cromwell for the first time. We'll
right.
see if
Maybe
we'll get
have all your
Cromwell.
guys healthy?
Yes.
Coach
Yep.
Panone against Coach Hunt. Yeah, I'd pay for that.
All right, Coach. It's tied up. You know what? Forget that. We're down 1. 3, 2, 1. Who's letting it go?
Garrett Sadazan.
After all the guys you've had? Sadazan,
Yep.
no doubt. He was really good. Where is
And-
he right now?
He is the captain and just graduated from Gordon College up around Boston.
He
Great.
graduated?
He is graduating this year. Yep.
Jeez.
Yeah, he had a phenomenal
What a hell of
college
a
career
player.
too.
That happened
Yeah,
pretty
he's the
quick.
best player on their team. Yeah, I've had some great players. I had Mike Odenwalder. I had Matt Luba. You talk about Matt Luba scored
Yeah,
1,000
Luba.
points for me
Wow.
in 2 years.
The Kangaroos, yeah, he was tough.
If I had him for 4, I think we could have been really good. I had Freddie Moletzko at Nottawag. I've had some great kids. The Ben Max at Wamogo, the Margaitis kids. I mean, I've just had great kids. But one shot, if Chuck Alexinus is out of eligibility,
You didn't
I'll
coach
take
him.
Sadazan. I didn't coach him, but
Those
I'd
are some
still
great
take
names
him.
right there.
All right. Mike Odenwalder you brought up. What's he up to these days?
Mike got a dream job. When he got out of pro ball, he went back to Amherst and then spent last year at Dartmouth as an assistant. Now he's the head coach at Eastern Connecticut. Really proud of Mike. He's matured so much. He's going to represent that school so well. Last time I checked, they were still undefeated. So
Off to a nice start, yeah.
Yeah, Mike is just an outstanding coach, an outstanding person. He's going to be very successful.
It's hard to get those jobs from what I understand too, so good for him. I mean, really hit the lottery there. Coach, Berkshire League only. Best baseball player you coached against.
Wow. Geez, I don't know. The Chappelle guy, with Steve Reich was fantastic. I'm just thinking, through the years, there's just been so many solid players in the Berkshire League. But, boy, we didn't hit many balls off of Steve Reich, did we?
I was thinking Reich.
Yep.
Do you remember back in the day when you could coach your kids in the summer and you were our Connie Mack coach?
Yeah.
And we played them about a week before he was leaving. And I was at this point 0 for 5 with 5 strikeouts in my career against him. And somehow the ball hit off like the tape of my Easton and made its way like over the first baseman's head. This is we're down 1 in the 7th. And, today I'll say I got a hit off of Steve Reich, but honestly it was an absolute joke. My hands are still hurting from it. But I'm leading off first. I'm feeling really good. I finally got a hit. I 1 for 6.
You picked off.
Yep. and he was coaching us at the depot, and I had to walk right past him. Oh my God! All right, baseball. Best Berkshire League player you coached in baseball?
Mike Odenwalder.
Yeah.
Mike Odenwalder. Mike could do everything. He wasn't a pitcher, but he threw hard, and he was at his level. He was
a
very
man.
good.
He was a
Yeah,
man.
he was a man.
And the irony of that is, at that time in his life, what did he consider himself?
A basketball player. I told him when he was 10.
You're a heck of a basketball player.
I said, your best sport is baseball, but Mike loved basketball. I said, follow your passion. And Mike was great. And that's one of the reasons why the pitch count didn't bother Mike. Mike played AAU basketball during baseball season. And I told Mike all the time, Mike, you have to come to practice. You don't have to stay. And he would never abuse it. But he would leave some days, to go to AAU practice, but he ran like crazy. Mike just never stopped. So his arm never showed any signs of wear at all, because he blew all the toxins right out of the muscles.
Some people still don't realize the more you run, the more you're going to keep the arm healthy.
I remember at St. Paul, we played you, 10, 12
Yep.
years ago?
Yep,
Was it the quarters or the second round
was
at St. Paul? Man, that kid was phenomenal. He
Well,
did
you
everything.
just had too many kids. You just had
we,
too many.
we had a nice team,
weapons for
but
us.
he brought the ball up. He broke the press. He scored. He defended. He was one of my favorite players that I had the privilege to watch play in person. He was a tough kid.
And he smiled all the time.
Yeah.
He just loved being out there. That was the best thing about Mike. Mike, if they're keeping score, Mike, he was all state in 3 sports. I've never
believe it.
seen a guy kick a soccer ball as far as Mike kicked it.
Coach,
Kelly Leak. Definitely Kelly Leak.
she ain't wearing one. I ain't wearing one. So his last game was a semi at Muzzy against East Catholic.
Right.
Epic game. How many innings that go?
We no, we,
was
we
extras, right?
it was only 7, but we
It
were
was?
ahead. We were ahead early, and we spend so much time on base running.
Oh, the
we
kid
hadn't
got picked
made,
off.
We haven't
Oh, my
made
God.
a mistake on the bases all year. I don't think we made 5 that night, and it killed us, including the bunt. And
The
that was
bunt.
when we put the kid into pinch run.
He got picked.
We
He got picked.
I went over to talk to him, and Mike said to me, "Coach, I'll take care of it." And he went through it with the kid again. And the kid was a great kid too. And of course, he got picked off, and that could have cost us a game. When you talked about Mike's underhand pitch, Mike just wanted to get that. He was so excited he threw the underhand pitch, and he even almost gave away an at-bat because he wanted to get to the 7th inning to end this game. He just wanted it over, and it didn't work out for us. I think we lost 10-9 or something like that. But we were ahead. We were way ahead early.
I was there the whole
we
game.
were just hitting seeds all over the place, and then it stopped.
Remember, well, you guys know this. That echo or sounding board at Muzzy, an old historic landmark building, like when there's noise there, it just sounds different to me. Do you remember the collective gasp when he threw that thing on there?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
the kid was a monster. He was their cleanup hitter, right? He had a
Yep.
home run in the quarters.
Yep.
At Quigley. Dude, there was guys on. Big
threw
guys up.
one-handed?
Dude, the whole place goes. And the ball landed just short of being a strike, right? They didn't
Yep.
almost roll across the plate, but the kid stomped his foot like 3 times, and he wanted to swing.
Yep. And that was when I talked to Coach Holloway was there, and he called me the next morning, and he said if he'll come to Eastern, he can play on the basketball team and the baseball team.
Oh, wow.
And then he mentioned the underhand pitch. But we're going to talk about that. I said we've already talked about it, Coach. And I encouraged Mike to go to Eastern then. He ended up choosing Eastern now, and I think it was a pretty good decision.
Hey, you guys ever want to see Coach get perturbed? Get picked off a base.
Believe it.
Oh, I had been there. You?
Not the only one, yeah.
Man.
Coach, we'll talk off the air what you really think about these guys as ball players. Now, just hanging around these guys way too much. Did you coach Strasburg at all? Steven Strasburg?
Strasburg played 1 year for the Twisters. He was our closer. It was after his freshman year. Steve has unbelievable work ethic. I always knew what he was doing. He didn't let my games interfere with his throwing program very often, but he always just worked harder than anybody else. He was one of the best hitters we had on the team. Once in a while, he would come in. The pitchers have to shag during BP, but if we have an off day and we say we're going to come in for batting practice, the pitchers don't have to come. Steve would come, and he would, so then the pitchers get to hit. Steve, he'd get 10 swings. He'd probably take 6, and then he'd give up. He'd just give up the rest of them. But he was a very good hitter. Just worked his tail off. And there were days where it wasn't even fair. We sent him out to the mound. You just throw the ball by anybody, but he worked on his secondary pitches. Steve pitched. And my best memory of him was at the All-Star game up in North Adams. He strikes out the first 2 guys on 6 pitches. And as the third guy is walking to the plate, the second guy walked by him, and I see his head snap back. Well, he must have just said, just swing at the first noise you hear, because he was just gassing it.
No, we know it's always hard to project success, right? But you kind of knew in him, like, he was going to
every night, nobody went home early. The scouts always came, and they would want to know if he wasn't in the mix to pitch that night because they were going home in the 5th inning.
Right.
But he, they didn't like it either because they had to stay around for the whole night because he would only pitch the 9th inning. He got scored on us twice. He got scored on up at Sanford, Maine. I thought he was not happy. Didn't handle it well, but and then we tried to stretch him out because Team USA wanted him to start against them. So we pitched him a 2nd inning. He gave up a run up in Holyoke. But he did start against Team USA through 4 innings, through 68 pitches, and he came back. I said, Steve, that's it. And he said, no, I want to go out again. I said, look, Steve, you struck out Justin Smoke twice.
Oh.
Okay, and that was the
Right.
big stud on the team. That I said, you
Right.
have nothing to gain by going out onto the mound again. And he said, you're right, Coach. And, everything is, $15 million bonus to sign and pretty nice 5-year, $175 million contract.
Is he pitching? Is he healthy? It just feels like it's been a while
Have we
since
seen
we've
the last
seen
of him?
I don't think so. I think he'll be, if he can pitch, he'll be back.
If he could not pitch, we'll take him.
Yes.
Cashman.
In fact, I can't believe how old he is. And he's
How old is he?
I think he's 35.
Oh, we'll take him.
All right, so we got
a big contract.
I got to bring one up. Us being Yankee fans, Coach, you You did the nutmeg game. This true story here. So in 2003, I remember swearing you up and down and watching the World Series because one Carl Pavano was mowing down the Yankees. Remember in 2003? Is it a true story that you actually cut Carl Pavano from
Yes.
the nutmeg games?
Yes. Carl Pavano came, and he was after his sophomore year, and he was overweight. He was a JV player. He had thrown the night before. I had a lot of pitchers. I had Brian Biskubiak. I had Eric Boehm. Eric Boehm played with him, and I just said, how good is this kid? And they said, Coach, no, I don't think so. So we let him go. And the next year he's tearing up the state. So I wrote him a handwritten letter saying, come out for nutmeg games this year. Never saw him. But I did see him down in Florida, and he recognized me, called me. He came over and talked to me down in West Palm when the Marlins were down there.
Wow.
So he was a good guy.
Yankees never saw him either.
I know. I wish you worked for the Yanks. You could have caught him. Jeez.
Hey, Coach, I wanted to kind of touch a little bit on the Berkshire League. 'Cause I'm a big Thomas and Bears supporter, big Berkshire League fan. And you guys have had a lot of success in the league, getting guys to the next level. NCAA professional, whether it be player or coach. But there seems like a stigma. The Berkshire League's small. Nobody pays attention to it. Like, I love it. I love watching his games there. I think it's really intense. Why do you think there's such a stigma, for the Berkshire League compared to, I don't know, I would size of the school means something, but compared to some of these other leagues where all these scouts seem to go to watch these players?
Well, it's all small schools, but, if you can play, they'll find you. They found Steve Reich. They found the Scribner brothers. They found Mike Odenwalder. I mean, if you can play, Major League Baseball will find you, and they love to find guys at schools like ours because they think nobody else will find them. So that's a big plus. In basketball, I know we're not as talented physically as like the NVL, but it's a coach's league. We can have so much more impact on a game as a coach than they could in the NVL. And I went to some NVL games. I didn't know they had a league rule that you couldn't shoot from inside that arc that goes,
That's a different
unless
sport.
somebody else shot it first. But it's very different in our league.
Listen, I know firsthand how good the Berkshire League is in basketball. Just a couple of the battles with you guys in the preseason and in the state tournament. Lewis Mills bounced us. Northwestern bounced us that one year. So I know all about it. The Berkshire League for boys basketball, that's my experience, is legitimate. That's legitimate basketball.
Okay, so Coach, speaking of the Berkshire League, and these are three Berkshire League guys that are enjoying incredible success in the professional and college level. Former Torrington Twister Pete Mackey is the pitching coach for the Minnesota Twins.
Yeah, you've told me that.
Yeah, I have,
That's a great story, actually, huh?
And we've sat there with him before, during, and after games in our little league out there, the Tri-State League, and just, shot it with him and talked baseball.
That happened pretty quickly, though, right?
Oh,
With
yeah.
Mackey? Yeah.
Yeah, he went from, I think, University of New Haven to Columbia.
Franklin and Marshall. He started at Franklin and
That's
Marshall.
where he pitched, right?
Yeah, and he started coaching there. Or the guy at
Franklin
Columbia
Pierce.
was the
It was
other.
Franklin Pierce.
Franklin and Marshall.
Okay. Then he ended up at Duke, and then with COVID and people bowing out or being old and being not into it, like somebody older on the staff stepped down. He's the bullpen coach. Then the pitching coach went, I think, to LSU to take that
Yeah,
job.
he was Bob McClure stepped down, but Pete was always ahead of the curve. He went into the spin rate and all that stuff.
Very smart.
Really, really high tech stuff. Yeah, Pete, it's great. I used to love it when he was bullpen coach. You'd see him out there, with his clipboard, writing down how many pitches they threw. He still looks like he's 14.
I know.
And then now he's got a great opportunity, and the Twins kind of faltered last year, and I was wondering, oh, geez, is he going to be in trouble? And
He survived.
He survived.
I think Kapler likes him.
Yep, he definitely. Likes
Okay,
it.
so also Brian Ham. I mean, I'm not sure if you ever coached him, but I know you're influential with him. You've coached officiated many a soccer game with his father. Have certainly had many sports talks with his father, and then your own that we just mentioned, Mike Odenwalder, who now finds himself at the helm of the best Division III baseball team in the country. Can you talk about what it is about your programs or influence on these kids that may have prepared them to take these leaps?
Well, I didn't coach Brian. Brian was in 8th grade when I left Terryville, so I would have had him if I had stayed another year. And I think that the way we break things down really helps. I mean, when Jason coached with me, he said, I said, when are you going to go looking for a varsity job? And he said, I'm not ready. And I said, well, you're a better coach than I am now as my JV coach. Well, I'll tell you, before I answer the question, let me just tell you about this. Thomaston didn't treat Jason right at the beginning or the end. At the beginning, it was the day of our first practice. Jason is coaching at Wamogo when he gets the phone call that he has been named the coach at Thomaston. So he went from our gym, got in his car, and drove down the hill to Thomaston to take over a team on the first day of practice. When he walked out of our gym, our guys stopped practicing and just applauded, just spontaneously. It was
True story.
Is that true, Angry?
I got
You
you.
never told me that, you jerk.
He wouldn't. He's too humble, but that's awesome.
He's a fantastic coach. We miss him, and that's always a thing that I try to do when I coach. I want to get assistants that are better coaches than I am. If I can do that, we're going to be pretty good.
Was he always this angry?
He's not always angry.
Just competitive.
He's competitive. And, like when we were kids, think about it. Our drug of choice was competition. Mm-hmm. I don't know if we played our sports because they were fun. We played it because we wanted to compete. And that was our
Absolutely.
drug of choice.
Coach, I know you touched a little bit on Jay and you're
Hold on. I got to cut you off.
Of course you do.
So their success, do you take any credit? Do you think your process or program may have at least helped them with going on to do?
What do you do when you have kids, Bob? As a parent, what's your job? Your job is to give them a proper foundation for future success. So that's the way I'm going to leave it. Brian Ham is not successful and Mike Odenwalder is not successful because of me. Part of their foundation came from working with me, I suppose, and I'm sure that all those guys saw things that they wanted to use when they became coaches and also saw things and said, well, there's no way I'm doing that because we can't all coach the same way. And that's what it is. You just give the guys a good foundation. Yeah. And, even in the Berkshire League, I got so many guys that are coaching, you included.
Well, I think that's what he wanted.
Yeah, I was going to talk about a little bit about your coaching tree. You talked about Jay and Mac and Brian. Like, talk a little bit about your coaching tree and where some of these guys have gone on to coach. And
well, the Fowler brothers both coached varsity teams. I've had I always love it in basketball when my players come back to coach with me, and I have guys like Matt Parkhouse that came back, and then Greg Lethbridge, Brian Whitlow, and stuff that come back and coach with me and do a great job. Tim Mischke, who played for me in Terryville, and Matt Parkhouse were coaching youth teams at the same time, and they were running the same offenses and defenses, and it was what they had done in high school. One playing for me at Terryville, one playing at Wamogo, and they just said, no, this is what we're going to run, And it's fun for me, and I know, like I try to bite my tongue when I would go and watch Jay coach, and because when we go into a gym, we coach their team. And we try not to say too much, but afterwards, geez, Jay, if you want some feedback, I'll give you some. And we can give them the Reader's Digest version, but we coach each other's teams.
I think that's got to be a pretty rewarding feeling, like that how far it's come. Like even you beat Dan Gazinski the other night in the final of their thing, and I have another question about that in a minute, but like, we were all talking, and Dan is your rival right now in town, soon to combine schools. Scons and myself, we coached Dan. You coached us, and now Dan's competing against you for a championship. It's the degrees of separation is just in our little corner is kind of neat. I love it when the league gets criticized because I think the success speaks for itself.
Go take a look and see how many state championships the Berkshire League's got, and and also how many finalists they've had that just didn't make that last step. But I'm always so proud of you guys. You won a state championship at Thomaston. I didn't.
In what?
In baseball.
I'm kidding.
Okay, yeah. And I haven't won it yet. Wow.
We knew it was coming back to Bobby Dick.
No.
And Jason, I'm always so proud of Jason because nobody's ever going to outwork Jason Harlow. Some college team is really, there's a lot of college teams missing the boat.
Yeah, they're stupid.
So,
how about my man Mosey this year?
Brian Moslak, great job. He was All-State and in basketball for Muffy and baseball 2 years for me. Brian was, he was a lot of fun to coach, and he's doing a great job.
Ben Max.
Ben Max showed up at one of our games this year. Came
Did
up
he?
last year.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's killing it.
He's doing
Margaitis still coaching?
fantastic.
I don't, something. He was coaching Keene State women for quite a while, but I'm not sure if he is anymore. He's not coaching there anymore. I'm not sure if he's.
Did he go back to high school?
He might have. I mean, he has a couple kids now. So,
Coach, it's just awesome how many people that. Yeah, Joe Fortier is in a state championship now, right? You coached me. Did I coach? I did coach him, and I'm just saying it's kind of awesome. Not only that, but then you go back and you take in assistance of guys that were I think older than you that you coached against, like the great assistant coach Mike DeMeza.
Well, Mike got better every year. Every year that I saw Mike coach, he became a better coach, and he was a big asset to us. One of the big things people don't understand, there is not a long line of people that are qualified that are going to take these jobs. There'll be somebody that'll step up and say, yeah, I want to coach my kid in his senior year, and that's it. But to make the commitment, we're doing it for the love of the game and liking working with kids, not for the money for this.
Coach, 500 wins. That number mean anything to you?
It's a milestone. It means you've been around a long time. That's what it means.
Ah.
How
many you got in baseball?
You know what? They did have it in the paper. It's 200 and something.
Get out of here.
No, I didn't coach. Remember, I took a lot of years off.
he was doing the college. Yeah. So here's one thing about Coach. You guys mentioned the everybody he's coached. I'll bring up like everybody still calls him Coach. Like you're doing something right. Like I'm in my 50s, Mac, you're in your 50s. We still call him Coach. You mentioned Ben Max. I talked to Ben Max a couple weeks ago. Same thing. He's like, "Hey, have you talked to Coach Hunt? Like how they doing in the Berkshire League tournament?" I talked to Mosey. He's like, "We said we have Coach. Oh, Coach Hunt's going to be on that." So
that's the
like,
biggest sign of respect.
It's funny you should bring that up because
you're doing something right if you're still calling me Coach.
I met with Dan Gazinski today, and Dan, forgive me for saying this, but like on his way out, he goes, "Oh, tell Greg I said hello." And I go, you tell Greg you said hello. You got a message for Coach? I'll give it to him. That happened right at my house an hour before he got here.
So when Coach has a few articles like in the paper about him, they would say to me, they're like, what do you think about Coach? And I would say, Coach does like his offense, this and that. And they always put like Greg in the paper, and it used to drive me nuts. And I used to have to go to apologize to him. Like, I didn't call you Greg. I called you Coach, but they'd have like, Greg does this real well. It's just, he'd always be Coach to me.
Yep.
They wrote a real nice 3-piece article years ago, right?
Yeah,
25 years ago. And he called me up the day it went in the paper. He said, Coach, I have never called you Coach to anyone. And it was John Torsiello, I've known John forever. He's great. He just substituted that, and Jason was upset about it. He also said that after a game I had taken my jacket off during the game and my tie off, which just never happened either. Never,
Coach.
Gentleman doesn't take his jacket off.
Coach, I mean, will you be the last one doing it?
Probably. I look around now and I go, nobody wears a
Gamari
jacket.
still does.
Gamari does. The coach from Summers the other night did, but it's less and less guys. And now guys are wearing T-shirts.
Digger.
They're wearing T-shirts.
Phelps, still wears
The guy
a
from
jacket
what?
most of the
Norfolk
time.
State. Yes,
St. Paul's coach, Digger.
Most of the time.
How about Rap?
Rap does wear a sport jacket. Yeah.
But without a tie.
Without
But
a
that's
tie.
fine.
Without a tie.
Well, that's fashionable.
Yeah.
Coach, you got to admit, you've had a few ties that have been tied for decades.
Yeah. They don't wear out, Somebody gave me a Yankee tie one time. I gave that one away quick.
Well played.
We'll get to that in a second. I want to go back to you facing Dan, and Dan went on a nice run. Litchfield went on a nice run in that tournament. They upset, the team you own. I don't know what they should call you up there in Northwestern. I mean, that team was supposed to come in and rock that league, and they're still playing. Good for them. But if Dan won that, if Litchfield won that, it would have been a rarity that a team not state tournament qualified wins their league championship. And for whatever reason, luck, injury that we've overcome, eligible players, somebody moving into the district, whatever the reason, if you win a conference tournament, now we're talking about a basketball tournament that it's fractured. It's a non-working system. This is our last topic before we let Coach wrap it up. But do you think if Litchfield had beaten you that night, they should have thrown him in a Division 5 tournament?
I don't know. If you make a rule like that, then you're going to get accusations down the road as somebody tanked a game to let somebody get in because it was last year they were going to coach.
Who
the
would
team.
do that?
Well, we had a tournament format not in the too distant past where you could benefit by losing. And there's certain coaches I know would never lose a game no matter what. But there were others that, there were accusations made. There was one very competitive coach I know, and I just said, I don't think so. I've known that guy for a long time, and he's not tanking a game.
But
So.
I'm not talking tanking. You've had your whole year, and you just came up short, and you had some heartbreakers. And maybe you were sick too many times. Maybe COVID, maybe the flu. But, all of a sudden, a team that could just say, let's just get this tournament over with and whatever. And you go out and you win it against good teams. There's not a place in our tournament for them?
Well, there could be, but the CIAC does not recognize league tournaments as games or scrimmages.
That's true.
And I'll tell you what, Dan might have done his best job of coaching in those two games because it's pretty easy for the kids to say, hey, we just got to go over to Chippewa and get this over with, and then we can move on to baseball.
Chippewa, who's going to play at Mohegan, by the way.
Well, Chippewa's got a shot. They've got a good shot to get there.
What do you think of Chippewa and their coach and how they've come along the last couple of years?
That guy works. That guy works. He's so dedicated. He's out every. This year, I was going to go to Ellington to see him play Canton on a Saturday morning, and I said, I really don't want to drive 2 hours to see that. And when I talked, ended up being a blowout. I was glad I didn't go. I talked to the Canton coach, and I said, my first question was Matt Lefevre there? He said, yeah, he was there.
Yeah, I saw him at East Hampton this year against Sports and Medical Sciences.
Yeah, he goes everywhere. He's put in time. His kids like to play for him. He's an offensive coach, and he's got a good crew of young players, 2 outstanding freshmen. They're going to be on a run. They might be the favorite next year.
So as somebody that doesn't live the Berkshire League like you guys, I know Chippewa's a baseball school. Yeah. For them to be this good in basketball, I'm kind of caught off guard just a little bit. Is this something that you saw coming, or is this a legit?
We didn't know how good those freshmen were going to be. We were saying at the end of last year, how are they going to score next year? But their kids played AAU over the summer. The Wormer kid got better. They came in with, Kirsten and Koenig are the real deal. They're only going to get better. He's going to have a nice run there. And then, 40 years ago, when you used to advance. When you lost in the tournament, we played in regions.
That's right.
And you could lose a game and go back. Well, they flip-flopped with Terryville all the way through. One won the league, one won the league tournament. Then they met for the championship of our
region.
The region. And,
Artie Whitehead.
Yeah, with Artie Whitehead. And then Chippewa won that, and then they met in the state finals, and Terryville ended up winning that one. So they've been there before.
Okay.
So, but it's been 40 years. I hope they make it.
The last time they had a really loaded team with a couple of twins and a bunch of athletes, a bunch of little guys from Litchfield took them down all year long. I don't know who the coach of Litchfield was, but so the Chippewa coach, who I've had a chance to get to know, and by the way, those kids played for the Bell City Ballers, I'm just saying, and Coach Lefevre did coach for us them last year, and he will this year. I think he had a brother that coached, maybe at Terryville, but that has nothing to do with this interview. All right, so the CIC tournament, what's your feelings? Is there a solution? Do you have one? What can we do? This is not good.
Our system has to be continually reevaluated, and I thought we had it right one year, and it turned out to be the year that we made the state finals, but there was some subjectivity in placement of the teams. But
is that Old Saybrook or?
No, no. We had Westbrook the year before that had a once in a generation team, and they've got to play Trinity Catholic with kids from Senegal.
They beat us in the quarterfinals that year, and it was the best team that I saw. They were phenomenal.
Yeah, they were. But they get down into the finals, and they got to play a team that recruits the world.
Right.
Valley Regional had, Sacred Heart had great teams, and they run into Valley Regional twice in the finals, and Valley Regional gave them a battle, which was amazing.
Right.
Now we've got a point system. Right now, we don't really know if it's working that well because of COVID. We only have 1 year of tournament performance that's built into it. But it's not a level playing field. My school is a school of choice because of our ag program. Ag kids don't generally play sports. but we're penalized by it. Whereas a team like Litchfield will never have to go up unless they do it purely on power points. Terryville went up this year, which everybody had a problem with that. There's got to be a better way. Trying to get a system that everybody can agree with, it's not going to happen.
Can it be something just as a starting point? We could talk about this forever. I know we're very emotional about this. Could we just start with 4 divisions? So everybody
Too many buys.
So everybody has 8 wins. I'm talking about the girls too. I mean, girls programs 30%. I mean,
well, the girls didn't want an elite division, and
Okay.
we're not. We have a Division 1. And that's where we're supposed to put the best teams, and for the most part, we do.
They're not.
And almost all of them are the Catholic schools. Well, we're always a year behind because
you're-
there's no subjectivity.
exactly.
Last year, we would have had Northwest Catholic and Bristol Central in Division 1 where they belonged. Instead, they played for the Division 2 championship, which was the best game of the night, the one everybody wanted to see. Now that their players are gone, Bristol Central gets put in Division 1, and it was a down year for Bristol.
so do you think there'll ever be a system? And I think Angry Jay brought it up. Can we just wait maybe until the middle of February and just slot these schools, or why do you need to know like in November? Does it change the way that you coach or that you play? Or
So you
if
can't
don't know?
benefit by losing, and you don't benefit by, okay, we're going to do it in February, so I'm going to get my toughest games out of the way if I want to go down, or
Gotcha.
I'm going to. It's got to be something that passes the eye test, but there's got to be some level of subjectivity. How you do it, I don't know what it is. There's been a lot of. There's been an awful lot of proposals, but it's a data-driven profession we're in, and we seem to ignore a lot of data that doesn't support the system that they're using.
I know Bobby Mack alluded that you're not on the committee anymore, and is that
I am until the end of this year, and they do have a thing about rotating people on. I was off for 1 year. I've been on for over 20 years, but
Gotcha.
it's okay that I'm going off. It's just very frustrating.
as a man of integrity that you are and a guy that wants competitive balance, that's a huge loss for that committee, in my opinion. And we need more people like you that get it.
Well, thanks. I hope they'll put somebody good on. I hope. I'm sure they will. The Coaches Association, we get 5 representatives because we have 5 classes. The girls really have to do something with their tournament because their first rounds are just all blowouts because you're getting the top teams playing a record with 6-14. They filled the brackets a couple years ago. Some teams at 2-18.
Yeah, that was awful.
And they said we're not going. And
Yeah.
we could make a joke out of it too. When we have a down year, we could say, "Oh no, we're going to declare that we're going to play Division 1," and now we automatically make the tournament at 3-17, and let go up to East Catholic and let Coach Riley.
I don't know how
Take it easy on
people
us.
aren't seeing this, but when you mentioned the integrity as players of coach, and I've been through a few moments I wish hadn't happened with me, but I know I came out on the other side better for it, even though that in a moment it's tough. I will say this: I've seen a lot of people, and I'm out there trying to win myself, but if it comes discipline, ethics, doing the right thing, winning comes in number 4. And this is from somebody who probably would cheat at anything to win, like on the playground. Angry Jay, all the guys we know that you want to win, but there's things you can't do.
Yeah.
And beyond that, then you got to do whatever you can to win. That's something that I hang on to. Scrabble with my wife. She goes into the kitchen. I got 7 new letters. But you're not doing your homework. You're going to teach her a hard time. You're not playing. I don't know about polishing your shoes, but I mean, Jesus
Well,
Christ.
Should always have your shoes polished too.
You know what?
I do miss the 4-hour practices for baseball. Those things people don't even believe it. Like, oh yeah, we used to practice 4 hours. You're so full, I'm like, nah. Like it was legit. It was fun though, wasn't it?
Honestly, Angry, the long ones to me seem like the indoor ones in the cold
they
up
were.
here. And that's to get stuff in. And,
Yeah.
when I went into that myself for a little while, and you can't get that stuff in 2 hours.
Well, you can't do it in basketball either because you're running around. But like for baseball, it was just going over stuff and getting, like you said, getting stuff in. You could do it.
Yeah, it's a mental test.
But
Those
people
practices were
started-
mental tests.
People started flipping out about it.
Yeah.
Go home then. If you don't want to be here, I don't want you here. If you don't want to be here, just go home.
And then when there's a first and third or a bunt situation, we're going to substitute in the middle of the inning.
Right.
Reggie and Billy. Coach, last thing, and then we're going to wrap it up. I know I said last thing before, but I know you well enough to know that if the Sox are on, it's on your radio. You know who's pitching. You might want to catch some on TV. Probably love to go to Fenway. I've never been there with you, but like, what's going on with the Red Sox?
Couldn't tell you.
Are you
Couldn't tell
happy
you.
with what's going on?
No. I mean, it's a very competitive division. Some of the, all I can say is they're head-scratching moves that they make.
Would you have let Mookie go?
He wasn't going to re-sign with them. And so, I mean, what do? Do you let him go and get something for him? And they did get something for him, but they didn't get a Mookie Betts back.
How about Bogarts?
I was surprised when Bogarts left. But again, Bogarts, I won't say anything bad about Bogarts leaving. I won't say anything bad when Joe Ellsbury left. I mean, I thought they were good players. They always gave their best. I don't know if Bogarts, how many more years he's going to be a top-flight shortstop.
Are you a Sale guy?
What's that?
Are you a Sale guy?
No, because you can see he's an arm injury waiting to happen. And how many years has he started where he's just been so dominant until about the All-Star break, and then it starts to break down a little bit. It's a tough motion, to do that. But obviously he's been successful, and 2018 he pitched came in relief all those times, and he competes.
One at bat, Poppy or Manny? Who you got?
I'm taking. I taking all things being equal. Opposite side pitcher. I'm taking Ortiz. I know Manny was. Manny did it all without thinking. Though Manny just. He saw the ball and he hit the ball.
I know this is a stretch. Teddy or Poppy?
Oh, Ted Williams, greatest hitter of all time, or one of them. Rogers Hornsby might be the
Better than Don Mattingly?
How about Yaz or Poppy?
Well, Yaz is. I can't be objective there. Yaz is my favorite
that's your
player of
guy.
all time. That's my guy. So I'm going to take. I would pay anything to see.
He named
Yaz
his
play
dog,
again.
yeah. So what do you think he was going to go with there?
Guys, he had the dog on the bus
I
for
res-
every away game.
I respect all that stuff, though. When it comes to your guy, that's your guy.
Listen to this. Once,
Richie, go get
Richie, man,
No,
Rich.
there was this kid that was a freshman or sophomore, and he was dying to get into the game. Great kid, by the way. And all of a sudden, from the third base coaching box, because you didn't have a lot of assistants like now. I have like a million guys over there, but like, yeah, I don't even know if we had one.
We didn't first year at Thompson. I didn't have.
No,
an
he didn't
assistant.
have one. Richie, the guy sprung up. He got his glove ready. Got his helmet.
Thought he was getting an AB.
He goes, yeah, coach. He goes, go find Yaz.
The dog was up dumpster diving at the restaurant.
Coach,
Richie was a great kid.
Coach,
That's
you've
a great
coached a lot of
story.
great kids. You've coached a lot of kids that have, gone through stuff. At the end of the day, you've been a mentor for many. Any final thoughts or, your philosophy, what you want to be remembered as a coach, a saying, a creed? Like, what do you live by? What do you want to be remembered by?
We just tell the kids all the time, do it right all the time. Just do the right thing all the time. Do it as fundamentally correct as you can. Make the right decisions in and out of the classroom, on and off the field, and you're going to be pretty successful. And, I know I've changed the way I've coached because things are changing. There's things I wish I had changed sooner. There's some things maybe we should have stuck with. It's, again, constantly evolving. But I always tell my kids, give back. I don't care if they don't have to be high school coaches, but they can coach youth sports. They can referee. I don't understand why we can't get referees. Just stay involved. Just stay involved because it's the best days of your life. I remember it seems like it was 40 years ago when you guys were playing for me, and it seems like it was yesterday.
Yeah, of course, you mentioned that about doing the right thing. There's one thing I remember that you put up. You remember the notes you used to put up on the bulletin board in Thomaston High School.
I have a copy of them.
So do I. Actually, I still have them. But there was one that said it was about character, and it's what you do when nobody's watching. A man's character is what you do. And I still remember it to this day. I used to say it to all my teams. And I had a picture of Penny Hardaway shooting a free throw at Memphis in an empty gym, and I actually wrote that underneath it. And it was on like my bedroom wall for a good decade and a half.
Is that next to your picture of Rob Lowe?
No, it didn't quite make it.
Coach, I just want to thank you for coming on. You're a gentleman. You have so much humility. If every coach was like 50% of you, sports would be in a much better place, and I think more kids would be participating. So on behalf of all these guys, I know Bobby Mack will wrap it up. I couldn't be more thrilled to have you here, and you're always welcome at any time.
Thank you.
So, again, want to thank our sponsors, Skygazer Brewing. Got a nice IPA I heard out there. I don't really know what those are, but heard they're pretty powerful. L&R Tax Associates, Jamie Leggett. You want money back in tax season? Call Jamie. Chiz Clothing out of Bristol Central. Thank you to our sponsors. Selection show tonight. We're hoping for a good turnout, good result for UConn and Rutgers, and just a few games to be decided here in the wee hours. I'd like to talk about the tournament, but we don't know until tonight. So maybe we can get a quick one in before the tourney. I'm sure there's people tuning in to basketball all week. Also, this Friday, the most glorious day of them all, where all of you pretend to be Irish. That being said,
not all of us.
Let's go Huskies. Let's go Scarlet Knights. Thank you, Coach Hunt. Opportunity does not exceed effort. And Commish, we missed you.